I'm Robert Bell, and we're here at the 2013 NAB show talking with thought leaders in media contribution and distribution about some of the most important trends shaping the industry, from technology shifts to changing viewer expectations. And here's what one of them had to say about the most important changes taking place today.
Right, so I think what we're seeing a lot of is this increase in people having the content with them all the time. It doesn't matter if you go to the coffee shop, if you go to school, if you go on an airplane sometimes, everyone wants their content, they want their data all the time. And for NewSat in particular, we're seeing that a lot in the maritime industry, right? So the places where satellite is the key and only solution. So we're seeing an increase in requirements for these networks to support the maritime clients because they have their tablets. All the kids have an iPad, all the kids have a smartphone on the boat and things like that. So that's we're seeing a major shift there. That before you get on the cruise and you enjoy it, now you enjoy it, but you still have your data with you, make sure you keep track with all your friends and everything else. Well, I think it's going to position us pretty well with our satellites because we'll be able to get more bits per hertz, support some of those things. We'll be able to be creative in some solutions, which I think is what a lot of the folks out there are looking for. They're not looking for a traditional buyer-seller relationship. They're trying to figure out how their business model can work with someone that wants them to succeed. So we have certain flexibility as being a new entrant to the market, and the Jabiru fleet, being K-band, is going to have leverage some technologies and things like that to really increase your throughput, I think, and really get that bandwidth to the users wherever they may be. I mean, for us, there's a lot of things. What I think I'm finding really interesting, though, is the shift of how people get their content, right? So how do you get your video? A lot of the younger generations, I'll say, it's no longer about over-the-air or cable TV. It's, well, I'll just get off the web. I'll just download it when I want to download it. I'll buy Hulu, I'll buy this service and whatever it is. So we're seeing that shift a little bit, for sure. We're trying to get more engaged in the media world ourselves, and that's the feedback we're getting from people saying, well, it's no longer about turnarounds, it's no longer about broadcasting the video solely, it's about what's next, what's the shift going to be. And for NewSat, it's important to be positioned for that by accessing the right satellites, but also being well connected on the fiber and IP side of the world, I think. Right, so their top priorities are, other than obviously getting the satellite up, it's going to be equipment, right? So I think we'll be in a good position in 2 years when we launch because K-band will be more mature, more accepted. It will hopefully we'll do away with this debate we're having within ourselves about KU versus KA. We'll realize it's just another frequency. It's just more capacity in the market, more creativity we can help. The right band and the right region for the right application will be important. And they'll see the pricing of the terminals, which is important, coming down, which I think is key to them. You know, they want to make sure that not only they have the business case for it, but they want to make sure they have the equipment in place to support it. Yeah, that's a good point, a good question, because I've thought about the same thing, which is ultimately being competitive is about your costs, right? Your cost basis. And as an operator, whether it's a teleport operator or satellite operator, the cost of delivering the data, right? So from our perspective on the Jabiru fleet, it's going to be really important for us to have the megahertz cost as low as possible. And when you have companies like SpaceX with more creative launch options that are maybe more cost effective, when you have these new coding and new modulation options coming out there that compresses things, it helps lower the cost of the megahertz, which helps us provide a better solution. So ultimately, things like the launch being reduced in cost reduces our overall costs, right? So we don't have to charge as much, and so the customers ideally can get more for the same price or more for less. And I think that's important, is the new technologies that we have to take advantage of. You know, it's really interesting to me. I'm curious to see three things. One, what's happened to 3D, right, in 3 years? I'm curious, did that ever take off? Did we figure out a way to make it work for the masses? Other thing I was interested in is I'm curious to see what Ultra HD does to the capacity side of the business. You know, did that really take off, and did that create more channels, more content, and so the bandwidth requirements stay the same, or did that kind of compress things more with new technology? And so we're back to saying, well, we have tons of bandwidth, what do we do with it kind of thing. And the third thing that I think that I wanted to sort of touch on is what I said earlier. I'm curious to see what younger generations are doing for their content. Is there a more and more shift away from your traditional over-the-air cable kind of things, and more people are getting it online? And that's going to affect the ad returns, the way people have their revenue structure set up. So I'm curious to see what this show looks like in 3 years, with people saying, okay, well, it's no longer about inserting your local ad into this video feed. It's about, well, can you get a little pop-up on the window when you go to Hulu to download your content? So I'm curious to see how that plays out, really.